We're going to start with the first presentation is Mapping Ancient Sicily for a Dynamic Historical Map of Ancient Sicily by Professor Stefania De Vido from Foscari University of Venice and Dr. Valentina Mignosa, who is presenting here today from the universities of Udine and Oxford. Just going to give you a very brief bio. So Valentina is currently a research associate at the University of Udine within the Lacuna project, which aims to use AI to integrate gaps in Greek dialectal text. She was a research associate at the University Ca' Foscari in Venice, on the project Mapping Ancient Sicily, for which she's now the local contact within the initiative, the Excellence Project for the University of Strasbourg. She was also a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Oxford within the ERC project Crossreads, with which she's collaborating as an external research associate and as a member of the Center for the Study of Ancient Documents. Valentina's main research interests are the society and culture of Western Greece in the Archaic period, epigraphy in Western Greece in the Archaic period, and the application of digital resources and information technology to the study of epigraphy and history of landscape in its ancient Atropization. So welcome, Valentina, and yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this presentation, and I want to really express my thanks to the organizer for inviting us, and also to convey thanks and also greetings from Stefania De Vido, who is unable to be here because of some the official commitments. So I will just present a brief introduction by her, and then just start with the second part of the paper by me. So I will now share the PowerPoint, hopefully. Okay. Just 1 minute. Okay, I think I'm sharing, right? Yeah. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I sharing the PowerPoint?
Yeah. Now we can see it. Thanks.
It's going, right? Yeah. Okay. So ancient Sicily is a privileged field of research for the study of certain historical phenomena: colonization, construction of identities, Romanization, which have undergone a profound revision in the last 20 years, leading not only to a redefinition of vocabulary and theoretical approaches like migrations, connectivity, hybridization, middle ground, especially in the depth research of individual case studies. However, at least two major obstacles persist. The first concerns the endurance of an essentially Hellenocentric approach, which describes context from the historiographical point of view of the Greeks and establish a hierarchical narrative, for example, coast versus hinterland, Greeks versus natives, city versus territory. The second concerns evidence, diverse and fragmentary. It has been the subject of individual case studies carried out on the basis of specific documentary categories. Much rarer, however, have been comprehensive contextual studies, taking into account the entire set of available sources. The MASS project, Mapping Ancient Sicily project, proposed to overcome this limitation and to develop a research model capable of anchoring the theoretical discussion within the concreteness of historical landscapes, considered in their dynamic aspects. Once we had defined the physical elements that were significant from the point of view of anthropic geography and the markers that allowed us to grasp the transformative action of man within them, we identified an area and a period. As you can see, the Etna area was our first pilot project, and the period is from 19th to the 5th century BC. if you want to scan the map mass QR code, it links to a just general page about our project and what we have done. So the project was funded by the Dipartimento di Studi Umanistici and the Venice Center for Digital and Public Humanities of Foscari University of Venice. The aim of the maps is to offer a global representation of a territory, regardless of any biased hierarchy of information determined by the skills of the researcher, for example, or the system of categories derived from our understanding of Greek colonization and the development of the polis. The mass maps, on the other hand, will offer a contextual and simultaneous representation of data, not fragmentary by typology, but sampled according to different chronological phases. It is precisely the enhancement of the chronological aspect that gives the maps a dynamic aspect, making it possible to immediately identify moments, places, and nodes in the transformation processes of a given landscape. So, some of the main research questions of our project, which Stefania Vido briefly here introduced, can be summarized as follows. Is it possible to visualize all the aspects that characterize a territory, so epigraphical, archaeological, cultural, and so on, considering the component of time and not only that one of space in such representation? Also, to what level of granularity can such a work be realized? And can a map become something like a tool for research and not only a mere means to represent reality and represents data? The research questions are undoubtedly ambitious, and yet over the last 25 years, historical research in many fields have been moving in line with the exponential development of the digital and spatial humanities on the one hand, and the pictorial turn and the cartographic turn on the other, towards the attempt to represent its data on maps, as it's evident from the outstanding contribution that we have in the last 15 years. So, in particular, bi-disciplinary collaboration have gradually emerged between historians and geographers with the aim of developing digital cartographic tools and geographic information system, the so-called GIS. Historians and archivists, in parallel with the digestion of archives and the creation of documentary databases accessible online. And also historians and archaeologists, in parallel with the development of digital reconstruction tools and methods used to visualize, archive, and analyze spatio-temporal data from, for example, excavation sites. So today, there are numerous online tools and projects aimed at creating historical maps. I will just present some of them, just very briefly, just to show the approaches taken by the research today. From, for example, the better known Pleiades, I can just share this, also this PowerPoint with you if you are interested in. These tools, so for example, Pleiades, that is very common and known gazetteer that we use to have a URI to link our places in the ancient maps, or Topos text, which is a selection of literary sources from Greek and Roman world that are basically mapped on like a modern map. And Recognito and Pelagios, which are very common tools that we use to annotate historical maps, but also we have other kind of historical tool like Open Historical Map, that is a project designed to store and display map on data on maps in a historical, in a sort of atlas, and something like that is also Open History Map. Geochrome is another interesting tool from the Geochrome consortium, and it's also very interesting as a tool for disseminating history and archaeological data in a very accessible environment. Also, there are like other very interesting tool like Orbis or time maps. Orbis is a tool in which you can basically see how many days or hours you need to go from a place to another one in the Mediterranean world. If you are taking a boat or you are going on foot or on another mean. So it's basically a map which calculates cost and time of traveling. And some other tools, very interesting tools, are NotGot. Maybe it's something very familiar to you. Is a mapping tool devoted to network visualization. So to basically social network analysis, put on map. And other very common tool are OpenStreetMap or Ibercities. Something very interesting. This last one, because it's basically as a website in which you can have different projects. You can also collaborate with, and you can search for their tool and use their tool for your research. Other very interesting projects are, for example, Eden Florence, project that can basically help you to visualize an historical city in its settings and its landscape through ancient sources. So in this case, you can experience Renaissance Florence with the eyes of contemporary sources, or this very interesting tool that can allow you to put historical data on the map, and you can create your own world and use your data, collaborating with them in a very open environment. And lastly, we have visi.org, which is basically is modeled. Sorry, I just realized that you see this, which is modeled and inspired on Wikipedia. So with all the problems and challenges that Wikipedia has. So for example, you have you can collaborate, you can put your data on, but of course it's a free community, so you have to double check data in this case. And then there is the last one I want to present to you is the Time Machine Consortium, which is a very interesting place, like a big box of tools and people collaborating each other to basically put information from historical cities of Europe in different maps, and sometimes reconstructing them in 3D dimensions. So this is a very interesting place if you want to work on the 3D reconstruction of the historical cities, not only for European cities, but also all over the world. So the direction taken by the studies is in some ways at a turning point in the historical disciplines, because for the first time it makes use of a large amount of data produced by documentation of a different nature and begins to use it in a coherent and truly interdisciplinary way, the way that Roland Barthes recommended. So not by bringing together already constituted disciplines, but by finding a new object that belongs to no one and that consists precisely in the map itself, in the digital cartographic object that becomes a means of representation, but also a research tool. So the methodology that describes the type of historical mapping of our projects hopes to achieve is called deep mapping. It consists of a holistic mapping of a territory or a city, capable of displaying on the digital cartographic medium all the elements that characterize a territory in a given period, whether material, so archaeological, ethnographic, numismatic, and so on, or non-material, like culture, institution, linguistic habits, religion, and the like. So the tool we are developing is a map that can be used both as a research result, so to display the data, and as a research tool. So to search the data and look for patterns, for example, or see the big picture of the data all together in one map. In other words, a tool that can show all the geographical, historical, and cultural features of a given territory in different historical periods and in a dynamic way. Our first prototype was structured in such a way as to be able to answer some precise research question about the input data, so far mainly epigraphic and numismatic, namely the what, so describe the evidence or the features present in a given place or set of places at a given time. So, for example, funerary customs in Catane during the 5th century BC, or describe the where, so basically the places or set of places affected by the presence of a given feature at a given time or period. So, for example, all the places where a certain object was common during the 5th century BCE, and describe the when. So basically the period in which a given object is present in a given place. So, for example, the presence of the serpentine fibula in eastern Sicily, so all the period in which it is present on the territory. So the realization of the prototype required the inclusion of a big amount of data in the map, according to clear categorization and also to clear taxonomies. And so what was our first problem, basically, because apart from the epigraphic evidence, thanks to Jonathan Prague and Sicily and CrossIPS projects, which are European projects that are trying to convey in one corpus all the epigraphic evidence from Sicily from the beginning of basically epigraphy in Sicily, so the 7th century BC to the 7th century AD. So apart from epigraphic evidence and at some extent numismatic evidence, the other types of evidence for Sicily are very difficult to deal with because of the lack of a clear and objective and shared, most of all, systematization. So a great amount of our time was used to involve experts to add data about different types of evidence. Sometimes the categorization was easier, for example, for the historical periods, because there is this very useful and shared platform, Periodo, which is basically a tool in which you can add your period and you can, in a way, share your period with other scholars and create a clear taxonomy about, I don't know, ancient periods in Sicily. In other cases, for example, for ceramics was kind of easy because we had Keramikos, which is a very useful platform for all the types of ceramic for the Greek period. But we also integrate a big amount of data thanks to Professor Marina Albertocchi. So we created our own taxonomy for the ceramic. But also, when possible, the data have been entered according to the principle of the Data of History Consortium, an international consortium that aims to improve the interoperability of geohistorical data on the web, and using Ontomy, a system that allows you to develop the ontologies of the data in line with those of other similar projects. So finally, we are developing this last month within our prototype the use of machine learning to extract structured data from narrative sources. Basically, we have taken, for example, some sources that are like the fundamental for us, like the inventory of archaic classical polis, of the Bibliografia Topografica, which is another very large kind of source for everything that is about a place in Italy and in Sicily and southern Italy. So basically, every evidence, like numismatic, archaeological, historical, is summarized in these sources. So basically, we used the inventory and the Bibliografia Topografica as an experiment to extract data with the open natural language processing and with another tool that I will show you in a second. And this experiment has been presented by the computer scientists we are working with at a conference on the application of mathematical models and artificial intelligence to historical and archaeological research. And this is like a poster about this last work on extracting data. The prototype has been implemented using two applications. So this big mapping ancient Sicily prototype about Etna area was at the beginning was created using, of course, QGIS. So the application widely used and open source that basically was our first thought when we start this work. But QGIS has some major weaknesses, at least for us as historians. As any GIS native tool, it strongly represents a positivist and reductionist approach to data. Historical thought is, as we know, largely text-based, also develops narratives of human life and culture. So in many ways, geospatial technologies seem sometimes ill-suited to examining the accounts of historians whose worldview is inextricably contingent and nuanced. So what is difficult for us to represent with a tool like QGIS, but we can discuss about this, is the narrative dimension that we would like the map to take on by displaying the data and allowing it to be explored in two dimensions of time and space. So the second tool we used, designed as a complement to QGIS, that was of course very useful for other purposes, is an application developed as part of the Running Reality project. This is an open access desktop application that allows you to work in a spatial environment, but it has been created with the aim of providing a dynamic representation of history on a map. So this tool treats spatial and temporal data equally and embodies the spatial historical dynamical approach on which our research is based, without compromising the accuracy and reliability of the data entered. So Running Reality serves as a real platform that allows you to work on different branches. So you can create your own world, you can work with it like as you work on GitHub, for example. So you create your own branch, you work on with it, and then you suggest the new the updates to the developer. So you can suggest edits. So for example, you can add data. In this case, I was working on the data about the Etna area, editing some information, and you can also add and suggest different new objects or taxonomies you need to put on the map, because it's basically on all the periods. So it's not only for the ancient period, but you can create your own map about every place in the world on every period you want to. So this intervention can be carried out autonomously, so you can work on the map on your own in an extremely user-friendly manner, and through a system that ensures you that any data entered is also double-checked. So you have to add the source when you add your data. So in this case, for example, I'm adding the source to Sicily corpus. So this corpus of inscription from ancient Sicily I was mentioned before. Among the data is also possible to insert what the developer called factoids. So basically, for example, the foundation of a city or the birth of a certain person or a certain character And so, or for example, ideas, inventions, and you can decide how you want to display it on map in order to be very legible on the map, or to be like very clear when you look at it. So these, for example, are some few examples of other projects that have used running reality. So you can just use one of these QR code to look at these different projects that are basically more on the modern period, but we are working on Sicily for the ancient period, of course. So on the one hand, this model aims to achieve a holistic treatment of the city and the territory, capable of overcoming the boundaries between different disciplines, thus working through the continuous consultation of specialists from different fields and historical periods to input data and create appropriate ontologies. On the other hand, it responds to the need to work with a tool suitable for historical research, creating and testing a customized, versatile and intuitive tool that allows for the accuracy of the data, but also the agility of the interface and the possibility of working in a shared open access digital environment. So just to conclude, we would like to conclude this paper with some final thoughts, hopefully relevant to the discussion or the debate. So the preliminary work for the Mapping Ancient Sicily project revealed three problematic aspects. Firstly, the need to develop or find a tool that meets the needs of historical research. The applications used, QGIS and running reality, have partially satisfied our need to visualize data in space and time, but a digital and narrative deep mapping of history capable of descriptive granularity remains a distant goal for us. The problem seems to be both theoretical and technological, because there is not yet a well-articulated theory, on the one hand, of the special humanities, but rather many diverse research experiences, nor are there yet sufficient digital tools to meet our needs as humanists, as historians. Secondly, the proliferation of digital projects on a given territory, in this case Sicily, does not always, or rather rarely, entail the production of linked open data, or even just reliable and open access data that can be freely used. So this makes it particularly difficult for digital projects to collaborate each other. And lastly, the problem of the longevity and sustainability of digital projects, the undocumented decommissioning, what is called the closure of the city, of a website, or many digital projects, whether completed or not, of which only ghost addresses remain on the web, has a negative impact on research, not only because it makes the tool used, so also the data published, inaccessible, but also because it deprives research of its own scholarship. So we are at a historical moment in which a history of digital humanities research and of spatial humanity research in particular becomes necessary. A history that consists not only of the publication generated by digital projects, but above all of the application software, which should definitely go through what is called the application retirement process, which is the closure of the software that is now, for example, obsolete as every tool after 5 years these days, while keeping its data active elsewhere, so in Zenodo, for example, or in GitHub, and should be documented so that it can become a known part of the process of continuous and rapid innovation that digital humanities is subject to. Thank you.